guys have been requesting him quite a bit, and I was able to get him on here finally. So from Fresh Meat 2, we have Noor Jehangir. Thanks for coming on today, Noor.
Thank you for pronouncing it right, buddy.
I had to, man. All right. Well, I look forward to getting, started on this, man. It's a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure to be here, man.
All right. So talk to me a little bit about, your competitive background, because obviously we saw it on full display during the, Fresh Meat Combine. Talk to me about, you playing sports growing up and
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer. I grew up playing a lot of different sports, but soccer was obviously the one that took up most of my time and I stayed competitive with. But my father was real competitive, and I guess that's where I get that nature from, where I'm just competitive. And it's always been a part of me, whether we're playing Monopoly or we're playing rugby. I want to win, and if I don't, I'm the guy that ruins board game night. It's fine, whatever, I get it. But yeah, so played soccer my entire life, played throughout high school, and then I went and played college. And I played a little bit after that. And then my roommate in college is actually an Australian guy who was the captain of the tennis team at the same school that I played soccer at. And he got me into Australian rules football. And that's where that career started off. And then I ended up playing for the U.S. team for about 6 or 7 years. And then I still, dabble in it every now and then, but I'm an old fat man now. So, but still, it's like, I think it was Toby Keith's song where it's like, I ain't as good as I once was when I was good once as I ever was. So I'm always down anything a shot still, just once. My endurance, none of that's there, but I can do everything just about once, and that's it.
Yeah. Bro, that was funny you mentioned like some of your analogies. I'm like the same way when it comes to like competitive stuff. Like I like kind of I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Like not like a chaperone, but like I'm one of those like a counselor. That's what it is. I'm one of like a little kids like camp counselor, like as a summer job in the summer I do, and like we have to take the kids and like play like games with them and whatnot. We're playing like soccer, and even there I go like
extra 100%.
Yeah. So
I don't care if you're 60 or 6 years old. I'm going to check.
Bro, I swear to you, I'm like so bad at soccer. But I had a little kid at one day ask me like, oh, like, are you in like the you play for Barcelona? I was like,
sure,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So.
But
talk
yeah,
to me.
I've always been competitive. My circle of friends is competitive. They're stupidly competitive, and I think also the competition comes from my core group of friends always to today, where we have a kind of a Northeast mentality where we just roast each other constantly. And so if there is a competition of anything and that person lose, they're going to hear about it for anywhere from 48 hours to 2 years. You don't know. Like those, like I get reminded of a bet I lost 6 years ago, like weekly. So that's so it generates this like competitive attitude that we have with each other. And so yeah, I'm competitive. I always have been, and I think I always will be.
Right. So everybody, has like their casting process, how they got, or on the show rather, or, they found out about the show, like what made them, get into it. Pete actually has a very unique one. I don't know if he's ever told you it, but now I'm gonna ask you what yours was like.
Yeah, I heard about Pete's. Pete's was different. Mine was relatively normal. So I grew up watching the show back when it was Road Rules, and I enjoyed like the OGs that were on the show, and then after that I kind of pulled away from it a little bit. I didn't watch it as much throughout high school and especially college because sports took up all my time. I did have it on like a list of mine and be like, what, I'd love to go to an interview or send a video in or something eventually. But with college soccer, your days and nights are all taken up basically throughout the entire year, except that little sliver of summer. And once I found out that, these things do take a bit of time and you do have to, leave your job or have some of a job that's cool with you leaving for 6 weeks, which, probably is not going to be a career that's cool with that. But, so I auditioned, and the last season I kind of really watched was Real World Austin because I lived in Austin and I saw it filming around me as it was going. And so I actually just sent a video in, and just like everybody else, I went through the loops of jumping through the hoops of like doing the interviews, doing the Skype interviews, doing the emails, this and that. Then I ended up getting flown out to LA, and we had an in-person interview, and this was for Real World Brooklyn. And so I ended up being an alternate. I didn't get picked, and that was that. And so I moved on. And it had been like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I randomly just get a call, and they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in going on the challenge?" And I had told them that, like, they knew about my competitive and athletic background, and that was definitely something I wanted to do. And so I basically got a call like a year and a half later. And since I had gone through everything from the interview process to the background check to the psych eval, I was basically, I guess, they had me in a waiting room, and they called my number, and that was that.
Right. Yeah, that's got to be, pretty cool, watching Real World Austin, and obviously, years later getting to go on and, guys like Wes and Danny there that you kind of grew up watching.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely
that was cool. And it was also, like that was that instant connection we had, because I'm born and raised there, and obviously that was the beginning of their careers. And so we would, when I was on Fresh Meat, they would always chop it up about places in Austin, this and that, and obviously it was memories for them. And so that was a cool little relatable thing there that basically started off my relationship with those guys.
Mm-hmm. Who did you kind of resonate with initially upon entering?
So when I was there, I'd like, we had friends here and there, and you hung out with this and that, but basically, the way the show was set up was there was a lot of alcohol being served towards the evening every night. And so people, I mean, whether it was, people were drinking like when when someone gets so drunk that you're like, is everything okay? Like, is everything all right in your life? Like, are you hiding from something?
Yeah.
That's how drunk everyone got every night. And the people that didn't drink was me and Kenny. And so me and Kenny instantly formed this like connection. And even though I knew my gameplay was with Jenn, and we were kind of playing a little bit of both sides, Kenny became my best friend, man. And like, Kenny was the reason I stayed sane, because the first week of that is a lot of fun. The second week gets real fun. It's kind of tones down a little bit. And the minute that third week hits, you're like, I'm over it. You're like, you're getting cabin fever. It's basically like, and that's basically the recipe for a reality show, is like, get in a car with one of your best friends and drive, from Texas to Canada. It's going to take you 3 or 4 days, and you're going to be with this person 24/7. And you guys may be best friends, but after like 24, 48 hours of like every single minute together, you start like nitpicking at these little things here and there. And you're like, I don't like this about you. I don't like that about you. And that's basically what happens in the Real World house, was that it was like, I don't like this, I don't like that about you. And then next thing you know, all this alcohol shows up at 5 p.m. and you get hammered. And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to go tell this person how I really feel about them.
Yeah.
And you have reality TV. It's quite the psychological experiment. But Kenny was like my saving grace. He kept me sane. Him and I usually were the only ones up till like 4 or 5 in the morning every night. And we would, be getting into antics and this and that. And I remember there was a real bad bear problem. Real issue. There was like bears everywhere, and they were like, you can't go running over here, or if you see one, do this or do that. And they were like super strict on never leaving any snacks outside, because the bears would show up. Which immediately, me and Kenny, the minute like everyone went to bed, we got the deli meat, and we would like throw it off the balcony into the front and backyard, hoping a grizzly would show up. And sure enough, a black bear did show up one day. It turns out black bears are just like big old skittish dogs. Like they don't want anything to do with you. So you run at them, they just take off. But yeah, he was definitely my saving grace.
Right. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool, and exactly what you said, man. From the people I've had on here, so far that were in that house, could definitely say that you guys It was definitely wild. You guys went through a lot of alcohol that during that time.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, it was a lot. And I guess like back in the day, they used to bring in wine, beer, vodka, and dark liquor. And I guess when the dark liquor came, that's when the fights came. And so I think my season was one of the first seasons where they'd taken the dark liquor away because they were like, it's just leading to physical altercations, and
Yeah.
they wanted to create a safe environment.
Mm-hmm. So you were picked obviously first out of the guys for the fresh meat selection. All around, I'd say you basically put up the best combine numbers. Would you say that people took notice or felt threatened by you after your combine performance?
Yeah, a little. I knew I was going to beat everybody because I knew, like, from my sporting history, I was still, at that time I could still run like a 4.40. And so like I knew I was going to be one of the better athletes there. But then after getting to know the guys for a few days in the tent and learning everybody's background, I knew I was going to beat everybody. The combine was a little bit interesting, like in the sense where like we were literally in a field of like 6-inch weeds and grass. Like it wasn't like a performance facility. We were literally in a field in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, where there were bears. So it obviously like wasn't like a mode facility. So yeah, we did that, and I was active at the gym all the time, so I was super active at the time. So I knew I was going to put a target on my back, but I was okay with that. I was 100% okay with that because I was ready to back anything that anyone was ready to throw at me, except the bench press. I got destroyed at the bench press because it was an actual combine bench.
Yeah.
The combine bench is 225.
It was 225.
225, and I only weighed like 170 at the time, and so you had bigger guys like Vinny and Pete that were definitely capitalizing on that.
It was actually 225 that they made you guys do.
Yeah. It was because they were trying to do it like as relatively, like the same to an NFL combine, and some of the stuff they weren't measuring properly, which was fine. But yeah, 225 was the bench, and like I got there and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take the L on this one, guys.
Wow. Yeah, so you obviously alluded to watching the Real World Austin, but were you like a watcher or fan of the challenge prior to going on?
I was a fan of the Real World Road Rules challenge. I hadn't watched much before I went on, so it was definitely when I was like in high school that I watched it. And it was back in the day with the Mark Longs and the Cyruses and the Adam King and Young CT, and so it was and when Kenny and Evan used to run it. So it was a while ago that I used to watch it. So when I got selected for it, I kind of like did my research and basically to see what kind of stuff is going to be thrown at me. But yeah, like I still haven't really watched it ever since. But when you're in that circle, you kind of never leave it,
Yeah.
For this interview, 10 years, something I did 10 years ago. And so I still, hear the gossip and hear the news through the grapevine, whether I want to or not, really.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, obviously before you kind of mentioned you and Jenn were a little bit of both sides, a little middle ground, between because there was a divide obviously in the house. There was a Kenny side, there was the West side.
Right.
And you said and alluded to that you and Kenny, were close during this show, but you obviously grew up watching West. Did you yourself, like if it was you without your partner, what side do you think that you would have played?
So outside of the game, I had met Wes a couple of times, and Wes outside of the game is cool. He's a cool guy. He's an entrepreneur. He's really smart. He's business savvy. So like we would talk about that. We would totally connect outside the game. Inside the game, I just didn't like the way he played, ethically. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, there is no real ethics in the gameplay, but I just didn't like the way he played. And Kenny was just straight cut and dry. And so we kind of were playing both sides. And I had the connection with Wes, obviously, with the Austin thing, but I was like kicking it with Kenny every night while everyone else got blacked out. And so Jenn was basically forming an alliance with Wes, but we were kind of playing both sides. And then when push comes to shove, we were like, all right, it's time to get off the Titanic and jump on this ship.
Yeah. So now I'm going to ask you a little bit about the other Real World Austin member that was on that cast, because I know he got into it a little bit with Pete and Brandon. What was your dynamic like with Danny?
Danny was cool, man. Like, but like what I didn't really expect from Danny was like Danny was just like this giant teddy bear. Like he was just like super supportive. Really never had anything negative to say. You know, everybody drank every night, but like Danny was just like a big old teddy bear. So the problem was in a game like that, it's like I want more razor edge people as opposed to I needed leaders as opposed to followers. And so and then we saw, you know, kind of how like the Danny and Wes thing played out. And it didn't really end well for him. But like when it came to like if you wanted someone loyal on your team and who was there for you, who are ride or die, like Danny was your guy. He was super nice, like just the most supportive dude, complimenting the dudes all the time. Like just you gotta love him, right?
Yeah.
Would I let him lead me into battle? No, I wouldn't.
I mean, you know, the 0-6 elimination record kind of, you know, speaks for itself in that. Yeah, he holds the record right now. Believe it or not, man, the historians of this show and like the, you know, challenge fandom, there's like all these statistics and stuff, and he actually there's a record book, you know, and he is the record for most seasons done without an elimination win, and the worst record of 0-6.
That's terrible.
Yeah, man. I mean, he made it back on to 6 shows. Nowadays, if you lose like 2 eliminations in a row, you might find it, you know, hard to even get a call back. You know what I mean? But for him to get on 6 times without winning, but I mean, yeah, what you said about him being loyal, you couldn't be more true. I mean, the guy took like you know, I don't know if you remember from his season, he got like, you know, seriously messed up, taking like a punch from like defending his roommates. Yeah, it didn't even involve him.
His season was so emotionally involved that there was so many different dynamics to his season that people really connected with him, which really made him a figure that people knew about. And you watched the poor guy lose his mother on TV. You watched him get cracked in the middle of 6th Street, and I think his orbital socket got fractured. Like you watched so much stuff happen, and then you watched him fall in love. And so like he played a real pivotal figure in the entire empire of the challenge. He was definitely one of the most memorable characters. So people loved seeing him back on, but when it came to competition, like that was a different dynamic.
Yeah, I think that they definitely expected him to become like, because I'd say honestly, like I love their season of Real World, and I'd honestly, you know, say that although Wes went on to be the more, like I'd say most successful out of all of them, that show-wise speaking, Danny was probably the face of that, you know, season.
Yeah, I mean,
the Real World. Yeah.
Center of any event that happened during that time.
Right. So I definitely think that you know, producers and whatnot had like expectations for him, you know, set the bar high going for him into the challenge, but it didn't quite pan out, obviously, as we just alluded to.
I mean, he played the social game, but there's a physical game that you can't really avoid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, you being partnered with Jenn, obviously she's going to draw most of the attention. She's pretty outspoken, and they edit, you know, TV a certain way. And the way the edit was kind of made you, you know, take a back seat to her a little bit. Was there, like, more to you that we didn't get to see on the show, or were you pretty clear-cut and dry?
So, like, I mean, in all honesty, like, I am like a Jenn. But the problem was like we were rookies, right? And Jenn is a very like, hey, I'm gonna take the steering wheel, get in the fucking passenger seat, and I'm driving this car. So like in essence, looking back on it, like would I have wanted someone different for my character development? Yeah, like maybe I would have wanted someone like Jill who was a little bit quieter, and I could have taken the front seat. But the fact of the matter was, like during the combine, I actually did want Jenn to pick me. And she did end up being a great partner because she played the social game real well. And then I wish I also had Jenn now, because Jenn now is like a CrossFit coach or something, and she's like crazy in shape and crazy fit. And on the challenge, she wasn't. And so it kind of held us back here and there. But at the same time, we were going against Kenny and Laurel, which in Kenny's word. In Kenny's words, it was an advantage to have a big bird on your team, and I had a little bird. So
yeah, like exactly what you alluded to. You know, Jill and Pete were together. Jill was a challenge champ. You know, she had won a season before, but it seemed like Pete being like the alpha male that he is, he kind of was like calling the shots for him in a way. It seemed a little bit, but I feel like if you would have, the roles could have been reversed. You definitely could have been the one, driving the getaway vehicle.
I'm also like a big believer in everything happens for a reason. So it's like, I did want to go into TV and film, and I know if you've done a lot of reality TV that transition isn't as easy. And so yeah, like I did that one season, and then I kind of ventured away, but it was a blast. And, she was a firecracker at the time, and so I was constantly having to make sure the fire didn't get out of control. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time.
So that season, the elimination styles or exile formed. That's the way the format was. So it's almost like mini finals were the elimination rounds. Was the final or exile harder?
They were both terrible. They were both terrible. But as it went, it was a challenge day, and the next day was the exile, and the next day was voting in exile, and the next day was like interviews. So you had like these day breaks. The problem with our exile was that we had won the challenge prior, so then we got to pick the order of that obstacle course, which was like I think half a mile long or something. Then we screwed ourselves by going last because we didn't realize how long it would take, so the damn sun set. So we were doing it in pitch black. And then the TJ hit us with that curveball that said, hey, by the way, the exile's right now. And we were like, shit. So we had to go straight home, grab our bags, get back in the van, and then go straight to the exile. That exile was really, really difficult because so first is like a little puzzle. And then after that, you basically, my exile, you had a basically like a weight bar. And at the end, there was 2 buckets, and the buckets had chains on them, and then you had to put sandbags into the buckets. So when you took a step forward, the buckets would sway. And the minute it swayed, like your entire spine was like, this is not happening. You literally took one step at a time, like one of those like strongman competitions, and everything would sway. And so I think we had 150 pounds or 140 pounds. Yeah, something like that. In bags, and I was like, all right, I'll take 100, you take 40. That was a terrible idea. I went like 3 steps, I collapsed, and I think Ryan and Teresa had split it evenly, and so they cruised right on by us, and so I was struggling getting to the first checkpoint. We get to the first checkpoint, and it was basically a puzzle where it's 9 squares, and it's 1 through 9, and then you had to make it so each line and each like diagonal line equaled 15. I think that was the puzzle. It was something like that. But I was good at puzzles, and I was good at numbers. So the minute we caught up to them, I zoomed through the puzzle, and we got to lose a little bit of weight and take off. And you basically were you're hiking uphill for, I don't know, I think it was like maybe a mile or 2. It took over an hour, I think. Maybe under, I don't know. It was a long time uphill. We had no light. They gave us like a little red blinking light, so you couldn't really see anything. So you're constantly tripping on stuff. And then like what they didn't show was the second checkpoint was like this, like you hold a big wooden puzzle and have a ball kind of roll through the maze. We did that, but then Jen just couldn't go anymore. So I put her weight on my shoulders, and then I grabbed her bar and I held it behind my back. And so I had all the weight, and I was hiking up myself, and Jen literally had her helmet in my ass and was pushing me up the hill. That was difficult. The final was just as bad, but it was just so long. It was so long. Like, we started at 8 a.m. We got done like, I think, you could jump out and pull your canoe up. I jumped down, it was like 6 feet deep, and I was like, fuck. So I had to do the rest of the day freezing. So the rest of the day, I was just soaking wet, and it was in the middle of winter in Whistler, Canada. And then, like, you know, they had shit that you just couldn't do, like biking uphill with, and you also, like, you're only allowed to be X amount of distance from your partner. Your partner couldn't, so I couldn't ever, like, kind of take off and catch up with anybody. And so we were like, our 2 bikes were attached with like a 3-foot rope or something. And we had to bike straight uphill, which is like, it looked like an old, like a ski resort that just didn't have snow on it yet.
Yeah.
And so biking uphill on that was impossible. So I had both the bikes and I was running with them. And at one point in time, we did catch, who'd we catch? We caught Pete and Jill, and then they gapped out again. And then we had to carry an 80-pound punching bag 2 miles up a hill. And then you had to ice pick up the end. And we were so far back, in last place that they just sent the helicopter and picked us up. So we didn't even climb that last ice wall. Like, it was bad. We were so far back, but I mean, their boats suck, dude. They both are so bad.
Yeah, I can imagine, man.
Is your speaker off? I can't hear you. Wait.
You can hear me?
Is that you or me? It says speaker off. What does that mean?
That might be you.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. So for my my next question, you know, I read things, and, you know, fans and people like to you know, say, you know, what they think happened and speculate, and but there is like a large amount of the fan base that always wonders and you know, asks, like, why haven't we seen Noor again? Like, why is he back? Like, you know, what, for whatever reason. Can you talk to me a little bit about you know, why you know, we didn't see you on another challenge, or
So
yeah.
I mean, so basically, like, when you make these shows, you have to, because now that I've, like, you know, studied TV and film a little bit more, when you make these shows, like, you have to have certain characters that have a certain dynamic that create an end result. The fact of the matter was like, when I was on Fresh Meat, like, I wasn't outspoken enough. I wasn't really me, which is, I am a controversial character, but I'm more humorous than anything. And the problem was like, when I got off the show, everybody in the cast loved me, and that was the problem. Is like, if everybody loves you, you're not controversial. Well, like, we fucking don't have a need for you. So yeah, I just basically wasn't controversial enough. And then, like, the next 2 or 3 seasons, the way they were pit, it was like, you know, if you had hooked up with somebody, or if, like, you hated somebody, or this or that, and that just, like, I didn't fit the mold, basically. And so because I didn't fit the mold, I mean, that was that, you know. And, you know, was it a blessing in disguise? Who knows? Because I'm still, like, kind of going towards the TV and film route. And would I get the opportunities if I was, you know, more on the reality side? A lot of producers kind of shy away from that stuff. So, yeah, it's like, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
If they called me back, like, would I go? I don't know. Like, if they did, like, a, you know, one-hit wonders against, like, the old timers, like, they brought, like, the old dinosaurs out, you know, like Cyrus and that fossil Mark Long, and, like, all these just prehistoric guys that I loved watching. Like, I think I would definitely go. Also, you know, now that I'm older and, you know, starting a family and a life and all that, obviously the financial incentive is there. But yeah, you know, it's like, I just really didn't fit the mold for the controversy they were asking for.
Right.
It was a lot of stuff that, like, I probably wouldn't have wanted to say on national television, you know, because the implications of doing it back in the 90s is not the same as now. Is that if you just say one bad thing, bam, you're viral, everybody knows you. The next time you go anywhere and someone types in your name on Google, like, the most fucked up shit you ever did is the first thing to come up.
Yeah.
It's like, so you got to be careful with that too. Like, do I do a bunch of dumb shit when, you know, no cameras around? We all do. But yeah, so that's basically the reason that, you know, you didn't see any more of Noor.
Mm-hmm.
The cocky little shithead that he was back then.
Were you called again, though? Because there was like a cutthroat season where it seemed like that was the next season, but I know the 2 ones after that was Rivals and
All
X's.
once, and then and I had a conversation, and then that was that. It was, I mean, there was nothing really after that.
Mm-hmm. So, did you watch the show at all, like since being on, or?
I mean, like I said, it's like you can't really ever leave that world. I don't have MTV anymore because that shit's like extra for some reason. I don't know. Like every cable plan, I got every other channel except MTV for some reason. So I don't know why it's extra, but I still kind of stay in the loop, you know, because it's like I see Brandon from time to time. I see Leroy here all the time. Vinny's at my gym. I see Vinny, you know, every other day almost. So like, and a lot of those people came through Vegas, and at the time, I was a creative director at one of the nightlife venues at Bellagio, and so I was seeing everybody, you know, cross paths with me all the time. So you kind of like stay in that world, you know, and I've seen, you know, some people like Kara's basically the face of MTV now. So
yeah, the female face, pretty much. Yeah.
It's awesome to see, you know, CT still come back and swinging at it. So it's fun to watch. But it's just like, you know, I've got other projects I'm working on. So if it's on, I'll watch it. But I haven't been following it diehard yet. I did watch my first season of Survivor last year.
Wow, yeah.
Wow, that's because now that I can relate to being isolated somewhere for so long, that's a social mind fuck. I mean, Jesus Christ. And they're making them like kill their own chickens and skin them. Like, we would have been screwed. We were in a mansion getting catered to 3 times a day. Like, I can't cut my own chicken. Go to hell.
So you obviously alluded to, going into the TV entertainment type thing. I was going to ask you, what opportunities came out of, you doing these shows?
Doing that, like, you always have like the that younger demographic, that college demographic. So, you know, like I went and I hosted a couple spring breaks. You know, I did events here and there that were obviously MTV related. We did, you know, obviously the after shows with Bina Murray. And I did a bunch of stuff like that. And then when I actually ended up moving to Vegas, like 3 months afterwards. And the funny part was, Brandon and Vinny already lived here. And so I had this conversation with Brandon. I was thinking about leaving Austin because I was born and raised in Austin, and I'd done everything it ever was. And I was like, you know what? I want to try something new and, you know, leave the nest. So I have this like 3-hour conversation with Brandon. And this is a story of me coming to Vegas. And Brandon basically convinces me to move to Vegas. I'm like, you know what? We're going to do it. So I pack my bags. I'm like, I'm going to be there May 1st. Well, lo and behold, I didn't know Brandon was blacked out during this entire conversation we had. And so Brandon's like, yo, I got everything ready. Like, we're good to go. This, that. I'm like, bet. So I get in the car. I get there. Nothing's ready. Like, we don't have an apartment. We don't have anything. And I'm in my car with a 160-pound wolf, mind you. So I'm like, what? So it was a fucking mess, dude. So I get here. I have nowhere to stay. So I call Carly, who lived here at the time too. And Carly was like, hey, like, you know, come, you can hang out at my place until you guys get your shit situated. So thank God for her. I would have been homeless. So I stayed with her for like 3 days while I worked with Brandon to get an apartment. We get an apartment. We move in together. And then that's how Vegas basically started. But being on the show, I came out here, and that's, you know, kind of when Twitter was getting big and social media was really getting big. And that played a big factor on you getting jobs in this side of the realm in the entertainment world. And so, yeah, like I the third day I lived here, I got a job at the Wynn. And it was because they saw like the MTV background. They saw what I had done in the past and this and that. So it helped out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually, pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it worked out. And then, yeah, you know, I mean, I thought I was only going to be here for a little bit because my plan was to be here and then move to LA and basically learn the TV and film industry and see if I like it or not. And that was 10 years ago, and I'm still here.
Right.
And, you know, ended up meeting my fiance, and we've been together for 8 years, and that's that, man. So I did end up moving to LA the last 3 years to kind of experiment in that area, and I really enjoyed it. And I had some success, and things were moving along. But with every relationship, the key, in my opinion, is compromise. And so she wanted me to move because I was going back and forth between LA and Vegas every 2 weeks. And she just wanted me to, wanted to be under the same roof and kind of begin life together, even though we've been together for 8 years, but it's a different dynamic when you live together. And so I kind of put that on hold, and I moved back here in October of last year. And I've been working on some projects here, which I can elaborate on later. But yeah, that's basically how MTV kind of affected my life. So if it wasn't for MTV, if it wasn't for me meeting the guys and then having apparently a drunk conversation with Brandon and moving out here, I wouldn't have met who I'm with now. So like I said, it all happens for a reason.
Well, yeah, it seems like most of, whether it be, your real life and then on the show, it seemed like most of, your situations happen for a reason.
It happens. So.
Right. All right, man. Well, it was a pleasure, having to get you on here and speak with you, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the fans will really like this one.
You got any other questions, comments, concerns?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was gonna ask, like, what you've been up to since we've last, seen you, but you basically already, kind of, for the most part, I'd say.
I'm trying. It's even hard to remember the challenge, man. Like, I've kept in touch with. I was actually texting Kenny today, and then obviously I see like most of the guys here and there. But yeah, it was a fun challenge. I'm always like forever thankful for Mandy, because when Jenn decided to go off on Mandy and try to kill her, I thought I was going home that day. And so someone told me to start packing my bags because of some shit Jenn did. And then basically they pulled Jenn to the side and they said, they pulled Mandy to the side and they said, hey, do you want to, like, you've been attacked. Do you want to send them home? And the story I heard was she asked if both of us will be sent home, and they said, yeah. And so because of that, Mandy was like, I want them to stay. So that was a lot of fun. And so, I appreciate her for that. Otherwise, I would have been in and out, and no one would have heard of me.
Yeah.
It was because you called me, I've been like thinking about all that back then, which was definitely a fun time. I'm trying to think of anything else that happened. It's really hard to remember.
Yeah, that was any like unseen, fights, hookups that you could remember from that season? Like,
I think every hookup they showed on camera. But what people don't understand, though, is that there's no doors to these rooms. The only doors are in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone was hooking up and say, like, it was 2 a.m. and most everybody went to bed, but there was still like 4 or 5 of us awake, you walk by the door and the door's wide open. They're hooking up and you're like, oh, that's nice. Yeah. And then you just walk right by. So that was like a real interesting dynamic. But yeah, like, it was just little things that we like Pete said. I saw a clip of his interview. We would all do all these damn sing-alongs all the time, but I'm sure they're all copyrighted. All this wildlife that would show up, like that bear that showed up. I want to say Luke chased it or something. There was raccoons that showed up. So the raccoons in Canada, like, I'm from Texas. Raccoons are like, they're filthy. Like they're just ghetto fucking raccoons. Like, their credit score is fucked up. Like, these are just mangy fucking animals. Like, in Canada, they're like Disney raccoons. Like, their coloring is beautiful. They're nice, and so, but they're 100% have rabies. I remember a few came into the backyard one night, and Laurel was hammered, and Laurel went out there and was like trying to make friends with them, and like the producer was like, get your ass inside. She was like, I just want to hug them. And she was like, I think she might have been feeding them. I don't know what, but their hands are up. And then there was another time that when you come back, because every time you go on exile, you have to pack your bags. So Landon went, and when he came back, he left his bag at the front door, and he comes in, everybody greets him and whatnot. He forgot about his bag. Dude, we went out there, a raccoon unzipped his bag, took out a protein packet, opened the protein packet, and was like just covered in protein powder. And we had this like on-running joke that we were afraid that fucking raccoon is gonna come back just juiced out one of these nights and just open our door and fuck shit up.
Wow.
That was a good time. That was a good time. And then I kept in touch with Landon. That was such an awesome guy. I loved him. He was like, because what was interesting, I mean, the recipe to reality shows is that like you get a bunch of crazy fucking people, and you get a bunch of people that have really opinionated personalities, and then you put them with someone who doesn't agree with their views and watch the fireworks happen. And so when you found like the real guys like Kenny and Landon, especially, that were like just normal, good, down to earth dudes, you really connected with them. And Landon was definitely one of those guys. Mm-hmm. I do remember. So when you get there, you basically get a bag of Under Armour gear, and it's cool. Like they had some like designer shades in there and all sorts of stuff. And I remember I got the sickest jacket out of everybody. I got like this black Under Armour jacket out of everybody, and and then like day 2 it went missing, and I was like, does anybody see my jacket? And so like it became this like on-running joke. If anybody sees, like, I've been looking for this black. I was like, I could have sworn I had a, like, because everyone looks at it and they kind of put your stuff away. And I was like, I could have sworn I had it. Then like next thing you know, like every other day I'm like looking for it or asking for it. And then I guess my fiance is home. And then like one day I see Kenny wearing it, and it's been like a month. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing with my jacket? And like, he had been hiding it and like trying to take it from me the entire fucking show. And it was really funny. Like, it was just like this big like prank basically, because they were like stealing my clothes. And so Kenny, the asshole that I had like become best friends with for the last 4 weeks, basically stole my jacket. Wow. But yeah, that house is incredible. Like, because they ended up doing, so there was like a rumor that basically we were supposed to go to Sydney. There was this like on-running rumor that we were supposed to film in Sydney, but something happened with the labor laws. And it made sense because all of our challenge, like a majority of them, were water-based. And I didn't think they would do water-based challenges in Whistler in the winter. So like Canadian winter doesn't make sense to do, water-based challenges in. And so I remember like Canada had some real, and they think they still have some real strict laws of like, if you can get in with a DUI or this or that. I remember a couple of our guys had some stuff on them, or something on their record, so they weren't able to get into the country. So we hung out in that airport for a while, and then where our house was, one of the Olympic teams stayed there like 2 months after us, and like I think CBS or whoever's covering the Olympics made that their headquarters. So you saw like our house all the time during the Olympics, which was cool. Yeah, there was that. And then our challenges, which was real sketchy. There was one challenge where we're swinging with the sticks above water, and you had to like jump from branch to branch. And basically there's all these sea lions under us. So there's like and sea lions are fucking huge. They're like 160 pounds. Like they're 6 feet. They're huge. But like, you don't see that until you get real up close to them. And in the distance, there's killer whales. So I'm, hey, those eat these. Why are we dangling up here? And I don't even know if anybody had a lookout or not, but it was what it was, man. But it was definitely interesting. It was a great experience. Canada's dope. I had a new appreciation for Canada and the beauty of that area. And then I had some lifelong friends that I don't necessarily talk to all the time, but it's like every time I see him, we just kind of pick up where we left off. Mm-hmm. And like, I mean, Darrell, I only hung out with him for a day or two, but we just like connected so much that I've stayed in touch with him, and he would come visit me in Vegas like once every year or two. So that was a cool part about living here, is that everybody kind of came to me, or all of us here, like they all just kind of passed through. So you luckily get to see all these people. That's the beauty of Vegas, is like everybody and their mother eventually comes here for some reason or another. So
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask, a few questions that came to mind since we're on topics of them. I was gonna ask, like, do you still keep in contact with Landon? Because he's obviously a guy that a lot of people want me to get on and
Landon's hard. Landon's hard to get a hold of, dude. Like
yeah,
I would message him and like he would respond to me like 3 months later. And I'm like, all right. So, but Landon's like, you know, so one of like the challenges we had was like we were rolling logs, and these logs are like they're proper tree trunks. They're like 90, 120 pounds each. They're not light, and your hands are getting destroyed. Like just if you want to know what it's like, go outside and rub your hands on tree bark over and over again. Like your hands are getting fucked. And and then like Landon was like flying through everything, and he was like, "Yeah, I do this all the time." And we're like, "What?" Like Landon, and Landon didn't have a gym membership, but with the time that the last challenge that Landon was on, he won the whole thing. He never had a gym membership, like, and Landon was like jacked. So so that's when I found out like he's a real outdoorsy guy. Like he's basically the best way I can say is organic. He's a very organic, like normal human, and so getting a hold of that guy is impossible. Like he's not. I mean, he probably still has a flip phone. I'll be honest. Like he doesn't do the social media thing that much. So I think last I saw him, he was like maybe in the dental industry. I don't know.
Yeah, he makes like dentist equipment, I think.
Yeah. So I never really talked to the fresh meat girls. The guys, obviously, you know of. Yeah, I mean, I touch base here and there, but it's like we like each other's pictures here and there, and kind of that's like the way now it is. Like the social media is how we stay in contact. But
yeah, I was gonna ask another question too. I've seen this like on like some challenge Reddit or like articles. It's like when they talk about like people who hooked up with who. I don't know why, but when I saw one day it said unconfirmed, but it had Cara and Darrell's names next to each other. And then I was like, what? Like, it didn't make sense to me. But then when I rewatched the first episode of, Fresh Meat 2, when they got sent home, like, everyone else was partying. And then Darrell and, Cara Maria were in the same, bed together. I mean, I don't know.
well, reason for that was Cara was like brand new, and Cara just didn't at that time. Cara didn't give herself the credit that she deserved. Like she was physical attribute, like she was dope. But I think she got mind fucked. So basically, when she got thrown in, she was kind of like shocked and she was like emotionally distraught, and that's why Darrell was there with her because she was like getting in her own headspace. And so Darrell like basically went and like was like, "Hey, calm down, this that," and all of us were like, "Why are you freaking out?" I'm like, "You have the king as a partner, like you're gonna be just fine." And obviously it panned out the way it did. But no, there wasn't even time for them to hook up. Like they were there for 36 hours. They were gone. But no, that's definitely not true.
Okay. I didn't think so either, but I thought it was weird that I saw that. I was like,
Yeah, that was that same night. I remember what's his name? Jeff Barr. He blacked out. And Paula,
yeah.
and Paula was Paula, by the way, Paula and Ryan were like some of the funniest, and I stayed in contact with them a little bit. They were just hysterical. Like they were so fun to be around, and they were just so funny. As you can tell, when like Paula has basically taken Jeff's corpse of a body and talking about how much of a wonderful partner she has. Hey, but yeah, that was a good time. Trying to think of anything else. Any other questions? Any other rumors you've seen?
No, I think I touched base on most. Yeah, I think. The rumor department. We're pretty much.
Rumor department. But yeah,
What about...
so I'm in Vegas. I basically do hospitality. We do club openings, hotel openings, restaurant openings, and then right now I'm working on a project out in Augusta, Georgia, where I'm on a team where we're basically trying to throw a 3-day concert. So out in Augusta, and then the latest fun thing is there's a show. When I was living in LA and I was doing the acting thing, I live by myself, and so obviously when you live by yourself, like certain things get you through certain times. And there was a show called Holy Moly on ABC. It's a Steph Curry's mini golf show with Rob Riggle and Joe Tessitore. And the commentary to me was by far the funniest thing I've seen in my life. Like Rob Riggle just destroys people when they basically get smacked in the head or something terrible happens to them, or they get instant scoliosis basically. And for me that was like one of the funniest shows in the world, and I used to watch it all the time. And so I sent him a video, and so next thing you know, I'm on that. So that'll be on, I think, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks. The show's currently on right now, but my episode, I'm not sure. It'll be on about 3 or 4 weeks, I think. But you can always tune into my social and see it there. But yeah, so that'll be fun to watch. Get the mind off of things for an hour. But yeah, man, just out here living life, chasing dreams, refusing to grow up.
Yeah, it's the life, man.
That's the life. That's it.
Do you still talk to Kenny?
To Kenny? Yeah. I actually talked to him earlier today.
All right.
I touch base with him here and there. He's real busy. He's real big in the fitness world now.
Yeah. He's in New York, right?
Yeah, he's in New York. He's got people sponsoring him, this and that. I think he might be a partner in a gym or something. I'm not sure what exactly, but I know like in the fitness world, he's big in the fitness world. He's been doing real well with that. And I just know like now with all the crazy stuff that's going on in New York it's a real battlefield out there right now. So he's got to be careful. He said it's a real different time right now, but yeah, he was like, it's unbelievable what's going on out there. So I wish him safety as well as everybody else once all this is over and we can get back to normal life. First it was COVID, and then all the protesting came and this and that. And
yeah, now I'm hearing stuff about Ebola resurfacing, dude. Oh my god.
2020. It'll happen. Godzilla might show up. I'm just waiting for Planet of the Apes. I think the apes should come back in like July.
Aliens too, yeah.
The aliens are coming. I'm sure the apes are going to come on horseback in mid-July.
The Ninja Turtles at some point.
Maybe Godzilla in October. Who knows? Who knows? It's this year's been fucked. So hey, whatever comes next is not gonna be surprising.
Yeah. But yeah.
If anybody wants to know what it's like to be on a challenge, it's like the year 2020. That's what it is. The most absurd, fucked up shit gets thrown at you left and right, and you're like, "Is this real life?" That's the challenge.
Landon will have the answers, though.
Basically, yeah. Welcome to the challenge, real life 2020.
Well, I think the fans will really love this, man, and I was glad I was able to get a hold of you and get you on here.
For sure, man. Had a good time, and hope to see y'all around. Who knows where you're going to be next?
That's true. All right, man. Take care and stay safe.
All right, man. Have a good one. Bye.
You too.